On today's show, we're going to get into a mailbag answering your questions about the Dallas Mavericks. Was Dirk properly ranked in either of the top 75 rankings from ESPN and The Athletic? Was Mark Cuban right to say what he said about Luka Doncic on the radio today? We'll talk about all of that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
Good morning, Isaac.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can see me hanging out with Isaac downing an applesauce, a Jello.
It's peaches. Get off my peaches.
A plastic cup of Jello peaches. Just
Jello
downing
shot.
them.
Hey.
Just downing them right now on the podcast. So joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the Peach Prince, the One More Thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
You actually could rock with that one, the Peach Prince.
The first nickname I've given you, you actually liked.
Oh, all right. It's been a few days since Mavs basketball, so now we're just eating peaches and having fun on the pod.
Hey, that's better than drinking an entire chalice of milk.
No, it's not. Milk is amazing. Get off. Luka's not drinking milk right now. We know that.
Heck no.
Chicken and rice, veggies. Luka Doncic diet conversation will never die.
No. So this was the conversation we had yesterday about Luka, how his diet changed, and that's basically how he's turned around his season. Go listen to our episode yesterday if you want to hear all about how Luka has changed his season, how he's been so good over this last stretch here. But his changing of his diet really mattered. And so then Mark Cuban goes on the ticket today for Musers, and he had this whole quote. But for our mailbag, Mavs fan for life 42069 says, was Mark Cuban right to say what he said on the ticket today? So what Mark Cuban said on the ticket was, quote, I think he was humbled a little bit. I think he didn't like being called out for his weight and other things, and it finally clicked that there's a level of discipline that's required. He knows what he needs to do, and it finally clicked that he's going to be the best. And I know he wants to be the best, and there's certain things he has to control. Once he got a handle on those things, it's just been Katie Bar at the door. He's just been unstoppable. Okay. Was Mark Cuban right to say what he said? Was it an innocuous quote and an encouraging quote about what Luka has, or is it a little bit of a shot that Mark Cuban's taking in this?
I don't think it's a shot. I think, I think it's safe to say that, Mark is Mark, and Mark will,
that is safe. Yeah, that's very safe.
We obviously have two different personalities. Like, I just wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have volunteered that. I don't think any of it's false. I think all of it's true. I think Luka's admitted that of like knowing, where he's at. We've went over all of that. To verbalize it and to put it into the media we've seen Cuban say stuff in the past, and it's, we're like, ooh, he's taking the light off of something. He's kind of like taking the target or the, all the attention away from something by him just coming out and saying something, whatever.
Didn't we said that last year about when he was like, joking about running for president, right? That all this stuff was just sort of this like ploy of him trying to take pressure off of Luka and the Mavs, and they had their turmoil at that point. Yeah.
So now it's kind of like putting that light back on, and I see where he's coming from. He's saying it in the point of where he's wanting to praise Luka, of like, hey, we all knew where Luka was at. Luka knew where he was at, to start the season, but he realized it. And now this is like, he was saying it in a testament to Luka and the work that he's put in to get where he's at now. It's just to kind of like verbalize it. I wouldn't have done that, but I'm not a billionaire. So I wouldn't, probably compare us to.
It is strange that he talks about players sometimes as if he's us, that doesn't like have a personal relationship with them sometimes, right? Like he talks about them as if they're like this third entity, and it's strange sometimes to hear him talk that way, where you're like, don't you like have to see them later and you're talking about this stuff? But you could also think about this in the sense that he felt so comfortable to say this about Luka because it's probably so true and it's probably so apparent that Luka was probably humbled a little bit and that he was he did take some of those things personally, and he did say, man, it was a little bit of a wake-up call that I wasn't voted an all-star starter and that, the season hasn't gone at the beginning as well as I expected it to and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, all these things can be true. It just does seem weird that he said it like this, and I think that's why some people took it in a different way. I have no problem with this personally. I think it's fine. Is it revealing a little bit too much? Sure, fine. But that's what we always ask these guys to do, right? Like, tell us more about this. Reveal something. Luka's not going to reveal this about himself, right? We read the piece for Callie Kaplan. He only gave her like 5 words at times. It feels like. And so for Mark Cuban to share this, story for Luka, it's him controlling the narrative a little bit about Luka, and also, if we want to go back to your point about Mark Cuban taking the pressure off of some things, could this be his response to the people saying, Luka's just playing this well because Porzingis is gone, and he's just so glad that Porzingis is gone, right? No. Because then all of a sudden this becomes his reason instead of that.
I don't know. I don't think he would say it. I honestly don't think he cares that much about the Porzingis thing.
Probably not, but it could be.
There's also an angle of it too. I mean, you hope this isn't the case, but there's also an angle to where he's saying, his direct quote is him saying, "I think." There's an angle of this where he's saying this based off just his own opinion, and he really hasn't talked to Luka about it. And Luka just got in better shape, and he's just looking at it from his angle of saying, "Oh, you know what? I think Luka probably realized that." Like and he's just like saying it that he got humbled because it's like
owners, they're just like speculating about all this stuff.
Because I think the part of the quote that probably makes some Mavs fans uncomfortable and is the humbled part. Is the, like, we all know the, out of shape and all this stuff, but to use the phrase he got humbled, insinuates that he was, so cocky about his, his talents and stuff that, oh, okay, well, I don't even have to be in shape. Now, is there some truth to that? We'll just leave that out there, but it's just, I probably wouldn't have said it. I wouldn't have said what Donnie said at the end of the last year either. Like, we can disagree with things that people say. I am with you in the sense of, I don't think it's that big of a deal in the world. Like, okay, like it's probably 100% true. So let's just move on. We have a game Friday.
Yeah. It is what it is. It's probably true. It's going to blow over. I don't think it's a big deal. So for the people that are saying that it's a big deal, I would say chill out.
If you want to argue about Towns, still thinking he's the best big man shooter of all time.
Ooh, we will have a conversation about that in the second segment for sure. But one more question here from our mailbag from Herc Henderson. Will the Mavs actually rebrand? It came out that Mark Cuban said that anything's on the table as far as a Mavs rebrand. Let me tell you guys something. Mark Cuban has been saying that for like 10 years. If we're going to play the game, is this news or is this not news? It is not news. It is not news that Mark Cuban says a rebrand is on the table. I think you asked him that like 3 years ago on this podcast if the Mavs are looking at a rebrand. And I think he was like, yes. He also said this stuff about, it's only a couple people on Twitter that hate, these kind of things. He said that on our podcast. And
he says like 20 or 30 people. He says something like that.
And it still hasn't happened, right? Like they still haven't taken any steps to it. So that is not news. Will the Mavs rebrand? Who knows? It's not so there you go, Herc. I just answered your question.
At some point, Herc.
All right, coming up, let's get into the top 75. The ESPN and The Athletic actually ranked these. Obviously, Dirk is on here, but he's in very different spots in these two lists. So let's talk about which one actually ranked him most accurately. And then there's a question about Karl-Anthony Towns and Dirk. We just got to settle this. We have to settle this because it's just gone on too far.
There's nothing to settle. What are we doing?
It's already been settled. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. It's a daily fantasy option for the NBA that you can also use for the NFL, for college, for MLB, all that kind of stuff. If MLB ever plays games, are we going to get to go to a Texas Rangers game? That's what I want to know. I just want to get back to a Texas Rangers game.
You want to go?
I do want to go to it. Now that I'm back in Dallas, I want to go to a Rangers game, and I want to have some players picked for prize picks. You can pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. It's not versus somebody else. It's not trying to play the Wizards or the Sharks that have all the smart guys that have all the computers and algorithms. You're not going up against Reliably Vulgaris in this. You're going up against the projected numbers from prize picks. So go check it out for a limited time. Prize Picks is an exclusive, no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Get $50 free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point, but you got to use the promo code NBA. It's only available to Locked On fans, so go check it out. PrizePicks.com, promo code NBA. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more of this mailbag. A question from How's My Dirk Taste 92. Who ranked Dirk Nowitzki more accurately, ESPN or The Athletic?
Oh, this is a good question. So, obviously, we know the 75th anniversary happened this year, or is happening this year. They had the honoring at halftime on All-Star Weekend. We got to see Dirk, MJ, the GOAT, and all the fun players and stuff.
By the way, I agree with that. I know I made a joke on Twitter about LeBron. I do not believe that LeBron is the best.
Don't play like that. Don't play like that. All right. So, The Athletic and ESPN with the trying to get the engagement rates up.
Yep.
Did exactly that.
Yeah, we're feeding right into it.
Oh, 100%. By saying, hey, you know what? We have 75 players, the top 75 all time. You know what we should do? We should rank them and really piss people off. Okay. So they did. The Athletics comes out first. Okay. And I about rioted because I get it. When it comes to these lists, especially a list like this, any list, any rankings, you're just begging for people just to be mad and argue and all that stuff. But there's some like non-negotiables, especially from a Mavs angle, that I can't. And I hate the thing of like, oh, you didn't watch basketball, or I can't take this serious if you don't have blank. All right, I'm breaking my own rule. I can't take you serious if you don't have Dirk in the top 20. I just can't. I don't think there's any feasible way at all that Dirk Nowitzki can be outside the top 20 when you're talking about players of all time. Right now, at this moment, there's no way on earth Dirk is outside the top 20. And The Athletic ranked Dirk 21st. ESPN ranked Dirk within the top 20. So I'm going with ESPN. Tim McMahon and the guys at ESPN, you win this contest because Dirk came in at 17. On ESPN. And I think that's a more accurate range. I mean, we could do a whole hour-long conversation on the top 75. I have thoughts on it. I have players I think he should definitely be above. Hot take, I think he should be above Jerry West. Jerry West, I think, is too high on some of these lists sometimes. But anyway, ESPN 17, The Athletic 21st. He's a top 20 player of all time. There's no way around that.
I'm looking at some of these Athletic ballots right now, and they put out their ballots here. I'll chat you this real quick.
Chat it to me.
Everybody's really interested in that. And there's a couple people that had Dirk in a good spot, right? So if we're talking about Dirk being top 10, top 20 basically is where we want him. You're talking about the range of, Curry, Isaiah Thomas, Kevin Garnett. Some people have Giannis up there. David Robinson is.
Oh, do you want to tier? Do you want to tier him off?
You want to go ahead and tier, but so people like Sam Amick had Dirk at 15. He's behind Hakeem, Curry, but he's above Jerry West, Karl Malone, Dr. J, Moses Malone. David Aldridge had him at 26.
What? Are you serious?
According to this, David Aldridge had Dirk at 26.
I love this guy.
Behind Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Dr. J, Isaiah Thomas, John Havlicek, Bob Pettit, Rick Barry, David Robinson, Kevin Garnett.
Are you freaking serious? Behind Chris Paul?
That's what this says, according to their website. Zach Harper has him at 25 behind Dwayne Wade.
Oh my God.
This has now become the outrage hour on Locked On Mavs.
Oh my gosh.
John Hollinger has him at 18.
This is ludicrous.
So we have John Hollinger has him at 18. Or Moyle, who we know, has him at 11. So shout out to him.
Let's go.
I know he's a Dallas guy, and so he has him in the right spot there.
That's probably a little too high for me. But here's my thing. I think for me, it cuts off after 12, and then you're entering into that next group. Like it's Jordan, LeBron in some order, Kareem, LeBron's top 5. I probably wouldn't have him at 2, but Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Bill Russell, Wilt, Magic, Bird, Shaq, Duncan, Kobe, Hakeem, Big O. For me, it cuts off there, and you could tier even those top 12. But in that next group, I think you're looking at the Stephs, Dirk, Moses Malone, Dr. J, Kevin Durant. Like these are, Jerry West is in there. I mean, maybe Karl Malone, maybe Kevin Garnett, but I just don't see any way. I don't see a way that Dwayne Wade. I mean, that's just a joke. Don't break my heart again. That's literally going to make me mad. There's few things that still piss me off when it comes to like NBA, and it brings out this side of me when it comes to NBA. It's when people disrespect Dirk. You disrespect Dirk, then I get pissed off, and it's a whole.
All right. There's a guy on ESPN. No, there's a guy for The Athletic.
He's a friend of ours. Don't do it.
He's not a friend of ours. I did not know him. I did not follow him, but he writes for the Wisconsin side. So the Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's in Milwaukee. Senior editor of The Athletic NBA. This is a person that makes basketball decisions for a website.
Does he have Giannis over him?
Has Dirk Nowitzki as the 51st greatest player of all time. He has him behind. You're not ready for this list. You're not ready for this list right now. Chris Paul, Dolph Shays, who shot like 30% in his career, Allen Iverson, Dwayne Wade, Russell Westbrook, Dominique Wilkins, Clyde Drexler, Reggie Miller.
What's his name?
Earl Monroe, Ray Allen, Isaiah Thomas, and here's the one that's going to get you. You listening to this right now, this one will infuriate you to no end, and we may have to go spam this guy's mentions because this is the worst. This is awful. He has Dirk Nowitzki behind Anthony Davis.
There's no way this can be real.
This is a real list. I just sent it to you. You can go look at it. Jeff mailed it. Jeff mailed in this top 75 players of all time list because you cannot.
How do you spell his last name? Put this on blast.
Oh, here we go. Jeff, Maillet. Hey, you put it out there for the world to see. You published it. You're the senior editor. So you put this out there, and now Dirk is 51st on your list. Here's the thing. I've been seeing a lot of things, and this goes to the Karl Anthony Towns question somebody else asked us. Like, and Karl Anthony Towns, the Timberwolves tweeted out that he's the greatest big man shooter of all time. That's been a thing, but they're actually sort of like leaning into it now. For a guy like Towns and a guy like some of these other guys above Dirk in this guy's list, you can't be that high if you didn't lead your team to a title. Or even for Karl Anthony Towns to make it out of the first round. He's been to one playoffs and played in 5 games. That means he's won one playoff game. One playoff game he's won. You cannot be the greatest of anything, in my opinion, if you can't get your team to the playoffs more than once and win more than one playoff game, right? Like some of these guys above him, it's just completely ridiculous that you would put Dirk this low because of what Dirk did as the player that he was for as long as he did. There's just no feasible way that you can talk about the NBA and put Dirk that low.
I'm debating. It's probably good. I'm going to wait to tweet this guy until after the pod. But the Dirk Towns thing, I mean, you got to be able to shoot at the biggest stage. Homie's not even made it out of the first round. He's made it to the first round like what, once?
There's a point where the threes matter more than the ones you're just taking in a regular season game.
We're also talking about a top 10 scorer of all time in Dirk. And Dirk has 14 seasons in which he shot over 38% from 3. That's longer than Towns has even been playing basketball. Okay. So
if you talk about Karl Towns being a 40% 3-point shooter for a long time, or for a decent amount of time, what is it?
6 years.
5 years. 5 years he's shot over 40. Actually, only 4 of those 5 years he's shot over 40%. But he's a 39% 3. Like, yes,
which is really good.
Maybe functionally he is a better 3-point shooter. That does not make you the greatest shooting big man of all time, right? Like that's the way that it's being presented, and that's completely false. And so the Dirk slander has to stop in both the list for some of these people at the Athletic. ESPN had him at 17, and they didn't release the rest of their list, I don't think. At least from what I've seen. So
yeah, they have. Yeah.
That they released everybody's lists.
Oh, the individual voters?
No, I don't think they've released everybody's individual
No,
list. So,
I haven't.
so we're cool with them. We're cool with that. You cannot disrespect Dirk in either the best shooting big man or in the list, and that's where it is right now. Coming up, let's get into media access. This was a big thing from Adam Silver over the weekend about media access for people like us, for other media members and things that they may not allow media back into locker rooms after the time of COVID. Why does that matter? Why should you listening right now, why should that matter to you? We're going to tell you about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about betonline.ag. Let me tell you why you should care about BetOnline. They have all the lines and odds and player totals and props all over the place. They have championship odds. They have odds for the MVP. They have odds for everything that you could want. Team-specific wins. Right now, the Dallas Mavericks are at under 47.5 wins. They got the over-unders back again if you want to go check those out. So you can go put down some money on all this other kind of stuff. So go check it out. It's not just basketball. They have hockey, boxing, UFC. They did Olympic coverage as well. They have all kinds of stuff. Head to their website or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the actions. Check out BetOnline. Some of these are really interesting. So the Mavs are at 47.5. The Cavs are at 48.5. The Bulls are at 49.5. Those seem kind of low to me. The Warriors are 56.5. Rockets 21.5. Take the under. take the under on that. Right now they have Luka plus 3,300. He's right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in MVP voting right now, behind Curry, John Morant, DeRozan, and Booker, and then the top 3 guys. So if you want to put down any money on that, go check out BetOnline. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, Isaac Harris, continuing on our random mailbag podcast we got today. We had some Dirk Slander, we had Mark Cuban saying some things about Luka, and now the Maniac Stance asks, why is media access even a big deal? And this question comes on the back of Adam Silver's talk with, his State of the Union, essentially is what he does, the State of the League that he does with the media over All-Star Weekend. And he mentioned kind of casually that we may be thinking about not having media get into locker rooms. And I know that if you're listening, you're either on the side of, well, yeah, sure, that is really invasive, and it's weird that people are around these guys changing and doing things like that. And it's just odd that media is in there in the first place. We don't want media anywhere near our players, all that kind of stuff. Or you're on the side of, hey, we like the stories and things that come out of that coverage, and we would like that to continue, but maybe we want it to be in kind of in a different way. I think people are mostly on either one of these sides. But why does it matter, Isaac?
Oh man, I have a lot of thoughts.
I just teed you up, and just like you're gonna be like Top Golf. It's just gonna be another ball coming out like doom, doom.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's an angle that we can take our names even out of this, of saying, because we're not even sitting there writing featured stories. In a way, we're beat podcasters. Because,
I mean, you write featured stories.
Yeah.
For Mavs.com.
And I like stories. So there is a personal angle to this for me too. Of like, it's so much harder for somebody like myself to like write some like fun stories, because we're not building. It's all about the relationships. And I don't even want to make this about me, because it's such a freelance, like small thing. Like there are people who do this full-time job that are trying to make a living off writing about the NBA. And it's like, some of these people are barely getting access to players. And it's like, some of your favorite stories out there, people are listening to this podcast, some of your favorite stories are a result, maybe not getting the exact quote in the locker room, but it's the relationships that are built time and time again in the locker room that build to the next thing. Like the amount of times that, I mean, we use personal stories on this experience on this, but of the amount of times that a story happened because we put in the time. We were going to Tuesday night with, the Hornets in town on Tuesday night, and we're walking in the locker room when there's 8 other media people there, and Dorian Finney-Smith and some of these guys are saying that day-to-day grind. I'm seeing you at practice. I'm seeing you post game. I know you're putting in the work. And it's like, bam, relationships are being built, talking about shoes, talking about family. My story that's on my pinned profile on Twitter is about fatherhood and being a girl dad. A lot of those questions, they're not just random cold questions. I'm just walking up to random people I've never seen before and saying, hey, tell me about being a girl dad. No, it's, hey, Dorian, hey, we've talked about family stuff. I got a girl coming up. Like, what would you tell me how to be a girl dad? It's those type of relationships. But it's all like so many of the in-depth stories that we get of that in-depth reporting. You get stuff, bits and pieces in the locker rooms. It's all those relationships with players. And what I get scared about is if we keep the distance, it's like a lot of companies out there that pandemic happened, companies adjusted. Some people went away from office space, all this stuff. And it's like, well, you know what? We may do without it. So we can just keep on going, right? But is it the best way to do things? Somebody told me the other day told me this line, and was talking about a different part of my job, but it was, hey, instead of you're doing things right, are you doing things the right way? And it's like, yeah, you're doing things right now, right? Like you're doing the best you can, but are you doing the right things, the actual things? Like, and that's what I'm afraid we're going to lean to, because if we stay separated and we stay without the access and without gaining relationships, the only things that are going to come out for the most part, with, sparing things here and there, are the stories that the players want to come out through their PR firms. Basically, I love Chris Haynes, but it's the Chris Haynes, Damian Lillard stories that are going to come out, because it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not seeing all the other people any day. So I'll do a story for you type thing. And that's where I'll be scared about it. Then it'll just be a select handful of people here and there that have the deep sources in the NBA that will drop stuff. And we won't get the fun, cool stories that happen that come to life through the locker room relationships.
How about, I'll take it one step further. There will be no more Chris Hayneses, right? Like Chris Haynes is a guy that started in Portland and worked his way up, right? If you and I wanted to go through this, we could have taken a similar path, as Chris Haynes. We maybe not have been as successful, but we had the same kind of access was given to us. You go to the locker rooms, you go to the, to media availabilities, and you start creating relationships with players through that. And he worked his way up, and to his credit, worked his way up and got enough relationships to where he started getting contacts in the NBA. And so now he's an incredibly big time successful reporter. There will be no one else that has the opportunity to do that if we're not allowed in locker rooms anymore, right? Like if at least there's an opportunity for, younger reporters or just reporters in general. It will only just be the guys that already have the access, the Shamses, the Wojs. They're on a different plane of existence, but it'll just be those people that have that, and no one else would be given the opportunity to earn that and to write new stories about the players and things like that. You'll just be hearing what players, what is coming out from players and what is coming from the post-game post-game pressers that are just sitting there, right? And
because even
those
right
for the
now,
most part are boring.
Yeah, well, even right now, I mean, look how many people have that top tier access media wise. You're looking at Callie and Brad and Tim Cato, Tim McMahon, these guys, like, and they're putting out great content, but even that, it's like they're only getting a certain amount of access to the players at certain times and on the road or here and there. Like, it's not the same as being able to have that freedom to talk to the players, which no one's forcing the players to talk to us in a locker room anyway. I mean, how many times did Wes Matthews just look at us and say, hey, see ya, I don't want to talk to any of you?
Yes, a lot.
It's like he just bounced. So it's imagine if you just,
or Salah give us the middle finger and leave.
Exactly. It's like,
in a joking way. He was
we have so, well, I don't know if it's
no, he loved us.
I thought he was talking about when I walked in, he was like, what the F?
No, but that story ended up good too.
Okay. And but like, imagine if you just started covering the Mavs, and we know, I mean, there's people on Twitter that a lot of you probably just started following over the past 2 years. If you just started covering the Mavs over the past 2 years, you don't know anybody. Like, you don't know anybody on the team. Like, I look at Josh Green and I'm like, bro, I've never even talked to you my entire life. Whenever I feel like
except for media day.
Yeah, except for media day. Exactly. When I feel like I spent every other freaking day with Dorian Finney-Smith his rookie season. Yeah. So that's the unique part of it, to where then it's turning into, well, the only player interactions are going to happen is, you know what, whose DMs are open? Let me just hop in players' DMs and saying, hey, can you come on my pod? And there's 15 million, requests. And then it's like, well, if I'm a player, I don't even want to have a relationship with media at that point, because there's no, so I will. And here's my thing. If I hung everything up today and said, I'm done podcasting, I'm done covering NBA, I'm just going to be a fan and nothing else, I would still be just as passionate about it, because it's those relationships that the best stories, the Lee Jenkins, the good stories that come out of this league, that were so fun to read.
The Baxter Holmes ones. Anytime Baxter Holmes drops something, you know that there's so much work behind all that.
Yes, and in the locker room access comes all the stuff that happens outside the locker room and seeing players and, you know, the families. It's when I'm standing, you know, shoulder to shoulder with Post Malone after a game because we're just chilling outside. He has his entourage and we're sitting outside of a locker room just waiting for the Mavs players to come out. Like there's personal stories that are fun, but there's so much of the reporting and relationship side that makes this game. And I don't know if there's an in-between, because there is a side. If they said, you know, what if Silver says, all right, I get it. We're just going to throw all of you guys in a room at each arena and the players can come. It's like,
this is
that's going to work.
This is what the WNBA has done. When I covered the WNBA for a little bit there, covered the Wings, before they would go and change, they would sit in a circle in the locker room and the media would go in the middle. They would have to go to each individual person and like do their like sidle one-on-one. And so then all the players are sitting there listening to you. And I kind of liked it, but the NBA is not going to do that. Like NBA players are not going to agree to sit there for an extended period of time and wait for us to get all of our stuff and our stories done, right? That's the reason why it is locker rooms to begin with, because they're already there. That's the convenience, right? That's the convenience that's already been made for this. So I hope listening to this that you understand why this matters, right? Because it matters for the guys coming up, and it will make following the NBA less interesting if all we get is just the pre-prepared things from agents or the stuff right after a game in a post-game presser.
All the stuff that's getting fed through agents, or it's the big people in the world. Which great. I mean, we don't have our jobs without Woj and Shams and everybody, you know, doing the report.
Sure.
We love all of that. It's just, what does that next generation look like? And will the only tidbits we get about the teams and stuff is the people on the bigger scale and not the up and comers
or the beat writers
that they're building the access, you know, or not the access, but they're building the relationships with the players. Cause there's so many good dudes in this league. And I want to read those stories about the good dudes. That's not the spoon fed. We all see it. We see the Shams tweets. It's like Marvin Bagley star, you know, it's like, okay, cool. Your agent gave you that, but it's like, I don't want agent puff pieces. I want legit relationship built stories that are good. And so anyway, I obviously get really passionate about that. I hated Silver's answer. I love the pushback, even in the moment that, you know, he was given. I don't want them to hide. I get the COVID angle, but I also don't want us to be looking at 3 years from now. And it's like, you know what? We're still just trying to be, you know, healthy. And it's like, okay, it felt like that was the door to get the separation. How do we, you know, walk back through the door to get some of that back?
There you go. That's our thoughts on Mark Cuban's thoughts on Luka Doncic, on Dirk Nowitzki slander that's been happening all over the place. Thanks to all of our people that submitted mailbag questions, whether you were real or not. We'll talk to you guys coming up later. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. And now make your second listen Locked On NBA. We have roundtables from all different groups in the NBA. I got every single host together in a different group to talk about their specific teams and how they relate. We just recorded ours for the West play-in. That'll be dropping on this channel tomorrow, so make sure you check that out here. But check out Locked On NBA. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!